Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I am so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 123rd episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and this is a very important episode. This week, we're going to talk all about the mental health benefits of traveling. Now, I've shared in episodes past about different types of positive benefits of talking travel and experiencing travel for yourself with your family, with your spouse, your loved ones. But this week, I'm going to specifically focus on the mental health benefits. And I say this because a few weeks ago, my husband and I were both kind of having a challenging couple of weeks. Sometimes work can be stressful, even when you love what you do. People tell me all the time that I have the best job ever. And I will say, I love my career. I love helping people check off things in their bucket list and add things on their bucket list that they didn't even know that they wanted to do. Logan always jokes with me that every time I find something or tell him about somewhere I want to go, he's like, you don't have a bucket list, you have a bucket book. And that's probably true. And I'll always tell him like, oh, I've always wanted to go here. And it's true. I don't tell him everywhere I've always wanted to go. He wouldn't listen. We wouldn't have that much time. I give it to him in little manageable chunks. So he didn't know I wanted to stay in a winery until we stayed in a winery. And that was in last week's episode. But sometimes you just need to get away. And I jokingly say that travel is my therapy. And I think that therapy is a wonderful thing. And I think that it's good for all people to experience that. But I also believe that for some, and for me particularly, travel is a jolt to my system. It gives me a burst of endorphins, kind of like, exercising would for some people. And I think that's good too. But you need to find what you love and you need to do it. And so when I say that people say that I have the best career ever, it's true. I love what I do. I love helping people to travel more. But sometimes the behind the scenes part can be overwhelming. Having to deal with airlines and sometimes suppliers, don't always deliver what is promised. And sometimes expectations are very difficult in this day and time to manage. Budgets don't always match what inflation has reached to. And so sometimes I feel like I'm a bubble burster instead of a dream maker. And that can weigh on you as well. Dealing with hurricanes, like we've had a lot of major hurricanes this season. And even in this past week, we had some tropical depressions, and all of those things can keep me up at night. So I need to get away sometimes for my own sanity. So here are just four ways, and there are several more, but I wanted to share these 4 ways that traveling can give us some mental health benefits that can help all of us. The first one, traveling helps with sleeplessness. I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes you just cannot get a good night's sleep. You have too much running through your mind. You might wake up. I have no problem going to sleep. I know some people have a hard time going to sleep. I have no problem going to sleep. I have a difficult time staying asleep. I oftentimes will wake up in the middle of the night and then I'm just wide awake. My mind is racing, thinking of all the things that I need to do, thinking of quotes that I need to, return, emails I need to send. And I think it's 3:00 in the morning. I need to get some sleep or I won't be good for much tomorrow. 1 in 3 Americans don't get enough sleep. And I'm sure even more don't get a great quality of sleep. One of the reasons for that, we're all guilty of it, or most of us are guilty of it, is our smartphones. We oftentimes get ready for bed, and in the last hour, we're looking at our phones in bed. And that backlight on the phone is not good or beneficial for great quality sleep. So I'm guilty of that as well. I need to start putting my phone away, not making excuses, and putting it away, multiple hours before bedtime so I can get a better night's sleep. Sometimes we need to just reset our circadian rhythm. And we just had daylight savings time a few weeks ago. That kind of messes us up a little bit as well. I know it does me because it's dark at 5 o'clock. And you're like, oh my gosh, it is already dark. But sometimes we need a reset. Maybe that is simply going camping, if you love camping, that is. Or maybe if you don't love camping, maybe it's going somewhere where the Wi-Fi is very weak. So it forces you to unplug. So maybe then going to a cabin or, finding a beautiful Airbnb in a wonderful place where you can go hiking or, you can go see the waterfall. Maybe it's going to the ocean. For me, hearing the waves crash just helps relax me. And so taking a trip, getting outside, going for a walk, these are things that can help us relax, which in turn can help with our sleeplessness. Number 2, reduces job burnout. That's right. Even if you love what you do, you need a break from it every once in a while. Even if you're a homebody and you love your home. I love home. I would never be probably accused or labeled as a homebody, but surprisingly, I love being at home. One of my favorite places on earth is my front porch, and I love being there, especially like in the fall and the changing seasons, but seeing my trees in our forest turn colors and watch them fall in our pond. It is so relaxing for me, and I love that. And I oftentimes appreciate it even more when I've gone and then come back. So to reduce your job burnout, Americans were really guilty of not using all of our PTO. We think that we get some kind of extra award or pat on the back for saving our PTO, not using all of it, when really it can make us more effective at work. So many studies have proven that employees who take their vacation time or their PTO come back more productive than those that never went. Because when you reach the point where you're burnout, you're not giving your all. Your heart's not in it. You're going through the motions. Maybe you feel like you've hit a slump. You don't feel creative or inspired or motivated. Maybe you feel a little cranky or a little snappy. And none of those things are beneficial to a positive work environment. Sometimes just the idea of having your trip booked can boost you there. So that's a great benefit of traveling, is it can help you not only when you're gone, but it can help you leading up to that trip. Months ahead of time, you can have a boost of endorphins every time you think of that trip you have planned. Every time you have that really difficult day at work, you're like, you know what? I've got Jamaica to look forward to. Or I have that Mediterranean cruise that I cannot wait to go to. Or you're like, you know what? I've got a weekend away. Come on Friday, I cannot wait because I'm going to get to unplug, get into nature, take some trails, and experience a new place. And that can really help. And when you come back, your spirits are lifted. So that's going to make you more motivated. You're like, oh, I've got a lot of emails waiting for me. Got a lot of work to do. But now I've got the energy to tackle that instead of feeling like you're running on empty. Number 3, can boost your mood. Traveling definitely boosts my mood. Breaking away from the monotony where you feel like every day you go through the same thing. And then when you come home after work, it's the same steps. You're in a rhythm, you're in the zone, but then sometimes there's a disadvantage to that because you feel like every day is not different from the day before. And you might even ask yourself, like, what is the point? When you find yourself getting in the monotony, and not in a good way, like sometimes, patterns and repetition, like that's comforting. I'm not talking about that, but I'm telling you, like, when you feel like you're getting into a rut, you feel bored, you're lacking like excitement and, joy, then it can be stimulating to go somewhere new. Your senses are firing at a more rapid rate when you go somewhere you've never been than when you're in the same patterns. We get on autopilot. You find yourself going from point A to point B the same way every day, and sometimes you don't even remember driving because you zoned out. When you're in a new place, you are watching everything and everyone around you. You also can find new hobbies. So when you're going somewhere new, you're experiencing new foods, you're meeting new people, maybe making new friends, making new connections, but you can find new hobbies that you didn't even know that you were interested in because it wasn't even an option. And then now you realize this is an option for me. I can do this. This is something really fun that I can bring back home and share in my community, not only my home, but my community in my town. And lastly, traveling can lower the risk of depression. And that does not mean that depression does not need to be taken seriously and that you do not need to talk with your therapist and all of the other options there. But it really can. I know that personally, having somewhere to look forward to, or if I've experienced something that's been, traumatic, heartbreaking, having something to look forward to can really get me out of a slump, I will be completely honest and say I might not even be a travel advisor if it weren't for this experience personally. About 9 years ago, my husband and I went through a very difficult time of a miscarriage, and I was really heartbroken. And I started thinking about, what is something that makes me really happy? And it's always been traveling. And so at this time, I was a college English instructor, and I thought, you know what? We have a 3.5-year-old. We're going to go to Disney. Happiest place on earth. That's what we're going to do. And it was that trip then that ended up opening a door later, not too much later, for me to become a travel advisor, which I've now been for going on 9 years. And so that's one reason why I'm so passionate about sharing travel with my friends, with my family, with my neighbors, with my community and clients, is that I know that there are so many benefits. It's not just about checking off your bucket list. It really can improve your quality of life and your mental health. That is all the time we have for this week of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are not already a member of our Facebook group, Heather and Logan Tate Whimsical Destinations, we would love to have you join us there in that community. Life is a great adventure. Whatever you do, wherever you go this week, remember, life is short. Make those memories. Take the trip. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcast, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.